I'm not going to talk too much about tonight's event because I'm going to allow Willard, who's the artistic director, to talk about it. But Café Society, I want to mention, is such a wealth of information that I was telling Willard, just doing concerts, jazz concerts, isn't going to be enough. What I would like to do is really give people a chance to experience the club. You know, Barney, Jack Guilford, the comedian, you know, having dance there. I mean, this is a club whose music range from jazz to boogie-woogie to spirituals to folk music. I mean, it's just all over the place. And I don't think there was a lot of places that was really so vast in terms of the type of music that they presented. And I want to remind you that there are cards here that I would like you to go back and come back to us and see Café Society. And again, it's going to open next week, June 5th. And what I've done is created a little cafe right here on this stage. So when you come in, it's going to be totally converted. So I think you would enjoy it. I want to give a special thanks to Duane Reed Cafe for serving the hors d'oeuvres in the back, and Chambers Wines for supplying the wine tasting. Thank you so much for doing that. So, to move the program right along, I want to introduce Willard Jenkins. Thank you.
As Linda mentioned, this is our 5th season of Lost Jazz Shrines, where we celebrate historic jazz venues in Lower Manhattan. And when we first began discussing the series 6 years ago, Café Society was one that we would obviously have to cover because it was a very important place, not only as a venue for great music, but also sociologically, it had a very significant place in the history of New York nightlife. And as Linda mentioned, it had a variety of different styles and forms of music. We, during this series, are celebrating the jazz aspect of Café Society. This is our 2nd program. And one of the things that was very important to Café Society was the piano tradition. And some of you had an opportunity here to see the films earlier. You saw such great people as Art Tatum and Eddie Haywood, and of course Mary Lou Williams, who was one of the focal points of tonight's program. All the piano players you heard, including the boogie-woogie piano players who were known as the boogie-woogie boys and played 3 pianos together. The piano tradition at Café Society was very rich, and some great women pianists played Café Society, including Hazel Scott, who you saw, and of course the legendary Mary Lou Williams. So we thought we'd bring together 3 contemporary pianists, 3 very different approaches to the piano, have them play solo, and then have them play together. So they will play solo to open the show, and then we'll have a brief intermission, and they'll come back and we'll have a 3 piano set. So first off, I'd like to welcome to the stage Miss Bertha Hope.
Joanne Brackeen, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I should say that I'm really happy to have been chosen to be one of the pianists to do this Mary Lou Williams tribute to the Lost Jazz Shrines. I was privileged to be able to see her at the cookery, and I was there every chance I could get. And as I researched her music for not only this, but other Mary Lou Williams tributes that I've done, I found out how much I'm indebted to her without even knowing it. When I did meet her, she was very gracious, invited me to her home, told me to come up and share some food and sit down and play with her. So in this program, I am going to play a Mary Lou Williams selection. We know a song called Black Coffee. wrote the beginning of that, and she called it "What's Your Story, Morning Glory." We know it with lyrics that were done afterwards, and I would like to do some further research to find out where the rest of the song came from, because she takes it into a very modern kind of blues, so I hope you enjoy this. What's Your Story, Morning Glory? Mary Williams. selections are going to be some that I hardly ever get a chance to play. They're from my CDs and their music that I've written. I've been doing other work, and it gives me great pleasure to let you hear another side of me. This first one is called By Time Blues, and it's written for a cat. Who unfortunately a friend of mine who had asthma had to get rid of the cat, and the cat's name was the cat's name was Time, so I wrote a song saying Bye Time, because I used to see this cat every day, and because of allergies I wasn't going to see him anymore. Bye Time Blue. This next piece was written for a record date and a tour that I did in Germany with Walter Booker Jr. and Jimmy Cobb. And it was written to commemorate not really lean times, because people think when you eat this particular food it's because you don't have any money. But the truth of the matter is that this particular food is good for your bones, good for your blood, good for your hair. The name of the song is Dallas Sinidras, and if you spell it backwards, you can tell what kind of food it is I'm talking about. new ballad. I'm going to end with a ballad that was written. Actually, I didn't really write this. I just had the pen in my hand, and it just happened. And that's just one of the miracles sometimes of composition. It's called The Wise and Wonderful Book. I had in mind the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, the Bible. But my significant other thought I wrote it for him because his name is Walter Booker. And so, a wise and wonderful book.
Miss Bertha Hope. Yeah, bringing the spirit into the room. It's a very lovely ballad. I think by the end of the evening you'll see that, I mean, you'll agree that these are three very different approaches to the piano, all within the continuum we know of as jazz. Our next artist is someone who, myself, I was first introduced to through a series of startling recordings she did back in the 1970s on Columbia Records. And just a wonderful piano player with such a broad range on the piano. Please welcome Joanne Brackeen.
Thank you. Mary Lou Williams was a jazz giant to me. I used to go hear her play when she was working here in the city at a club called The Cookery, which was on 8th Street and University. And I would be working at Bradley's across the street and run over and see Mary Lou. And she was always happy to see myself and other people that came with me, because she would be playing a lot of the blues things, her older music, during the first part of the evening. And then when we came over, she'd start playing very modern music, McCoy Tyner, very modern. I don't know if she's ever really recorded some of the things that we heard, but she was amazing. And I'm going to attempt to do one tune, a transcription, in the middle of my set that she did. I'll start off with a tune. It's a regular tune. I'm going to do a little bit of stride piano and dedicate it to Mary Lou because she played in odd meters. So I'm going to do a stride piano in 7/4. And the tune is If I Were a Bell.
Mary Lou wrote a tune called Bobo and Doodles. And this is the one that I'm going to play a transcription of. Thank you. I especially want to thank Father O'Brien, Mary Lou's manager, for sending me that music. Now I'm going to play a tune that I kind of composed thinking of some of my students. And it's called Cram an Exam. And it's kind of a crazy tune, and I feel like if everybody's life was extended for 100 or something years, Mary Lou probably would have been writing crazy tunes like this too.